I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. For those of you who are new to our Lunch and Learns, welcome. I know we have a lot of new families. As a part of our community, we do record these and put them on our Autism Tree YouTube channel every single week. So please mute yourself when you're not speaking. We recommend speaker view for presentation. Video sharing is optional, though we love to see all your smiling faces. And please type all questions and comments into the chat. We will have a Q&A with our guest speaker at the end as well, so you can feel free to unmute yourself at that point and really connect with our guest speaker today. A quick update from Autism Tree. We are at 538 brand new families, in addition to the thousands of families that we serve every single year, just in 2023 since January 1st. So welcome to all our new families to Autism Tree. We offer 20 programs, 9 are in-person in San Diego County, 7 are currently hybrid, both in-person and online on Zoom, and 4 are virtual. So those who are outside San Diego County are also welcome. As most everyone knows, all of our events are free to register for online. All you have to do is RSVP and we'll send you the details. So we have 16 upcoming events left in September. So check our social media for announcements. Events that are happening this weekend are our adaptive dance class for ages 13 through 24. Oops, sorry, I'm gonna mute somebody. Please put yourself on mute if you're.
Oh, Mom, hold on.
There we go. Hi. Okay, wonderful.
Hi there. Sorry about all the noise.
No worries. It's nice. Glad you can join us, Tracy. Okay. We also have this week our USD football home game for Autism Tree families, which is happening at 2 o'clock this week. We're so excited. We're finally going to pair our player mentors. We get to see our player mentors after the game outside of the locker rooms, so our families can spend some time with them one-on-one. So come and join us for the game. It's super fun. And then we'll go ahead and meet the team right after. We also have our Autism Tree NCL Del Sol Day of Connection. So I'm really excited about this event, which is a new event with the National Charity League Del Sol chapter based in Solana Beach. We are meeting at San Dieguito Park, and they are bringing their whole chapter class. So we will be pairing, it's a girls only event. We'll be pairing girls one-on-one with the National Charity League girls. This chapter class wanted to do this specific Day of Connection. So there'll be lots of activities, games to play, lots of things for the girls to do together. So that will be this Sunday at 12 p.m. at San Dieguito Park. So we recommend that for all of our girl families. We have 556 impact videos on our YouTube channel as of today. And of course, like I said, these Lunch and Learns, we have 132 of them already recorded and posted. And we post new videos every single week. So now I'm going to pass it off to Dana Hoff, who will introduce our guest speaker, Derek Matlock.
Thank you, Rebecca. It's always great to be here with everyone, and I'm always amazed at each week when an actual speaker shows up, and I always tend to think it's exactly as it should be and meant to be. And Derek, on our pre-call, it was very special because I feel like so connected to your family, Derek, and we were trying to figure out how long it's been, and essentially it feels like almost the whole time, but Derek is one of our first generation of kids, and he's 25 now, and it's just remarkable to see your journey, Derek, and to have you here to share it. I think it's really touching to me how many doors that you have opened for yourself, and I know that will inspire all of us here today. That is kind of the essence of Autism Tree as a family, is to continue to open up as many doors as possible so that we can create the most fulfilling lives for each person and the families that we're serving. So it's really a blessing. I had Rebecca kind of look back, I was reflecting on you and your family, Derek, and I want to pull up those slides. And Derek actually started our first ever teen time program. He's in the far left with Sabine, and then he's in the middle. My son Garrett is on the right. And Derek and Sabine started this teen time program. Once again, I love it because it was very organic. Sabine and Derek went to the movies together. And then I heard from both their moms that they had so much fun. They wanted to offer it up to other teens and they didn't want any parents to be involved. So it was quite terrifying at the time. But we started opening it up that whatever parents felt their teens could go on different adventures in San Diego together. It was the start of our teen program, which still exists and serves hundreds of teenagers. The middle photo is Derek with his family. His dad, who has done a lunch and learn, is a retired Marine now and shared about the missions he did in Ukraine not that long ago with photos. And then his mom actually did a lunch and learn at least once, if not twice. She is a psychologist and has her BCBA and currently works for the VA and is an incredible friend and inspiration ongoing to me and to our team and to the whole Autism Tree family. And then those are his two sisters. And it looks like next to you, Derek, is someone from the Autism Tree family, maybe one of our volunteers. And if you go to the right up top, that's Derek with some of the teen program. And it grew to be quite big and it still is Derek. And then Derek, that's my favorite photo with you. I really love that photo. I felt like I never knew your eyes were so blue until I saw that photo of us. And I believe that is from one of our neuroscience conferences. This captures Derek being on a panel with Sabine and Garrett. If you look at the corner, the left bottom, it will show that he was on a panel. And those are all first generation kids. And then up above is from that neuroscience conference with Roger Bingham, who's our moderator. And I think our chairman, Dr. Motri, is in there as well. And then next to that up top is him, Derek, and his mom, Tracy. And then me with them. And then down below is Rebecca with Derek. And I'm not sure, Derek, who's in that picture to the far right with you. But I really love to share these photos with you because Derek and his family have been such an integral part of this foundation for really almost feels like the whole 20 years. And I can't help but think that there's a reason right now today that Derek is sharing his educational journey. I think what Rebecca and Erica, who's on here and works at Autism Tree now, some of you, Derek hadn't met Erica before because she's only been here a few months, but myself, Rebecca, and Erica, this is a ongoing issue that we are on the front lines with daily with our families. The educational landscape, whether it is pre-K, elementary school, middle school, high school, college, or trade schools, is a constant challenge that we're on the front lines with. So I want to give a warm welcome to Derek and just say how much you and your family mean to me. Derek took school off today to do this. So I really want to give you extra gratitude for that, Derek. And the rest is yours. Thank you for being here and being our guest speaker today.
Well, thank you for giving me that slideshow. I was able to remember some of the old times of when I was with the ATF or ATPF, sorry, when I used to live in San Diego. Briefly speaking, I just had to write down everything that I was thinking of. But yeah, I helped co-create the Autism Tree Project Foundation's Teen Time. It was one of my favorite things that I've done so far with me and Savine. And I'm glad to hear that it's going. One of the things I figured out was we need to be able to interact with people that are autistic and teenagers in a way that's not being mediated all the time with adults, but also to have somebody there that can help guide the group. So doing stereotypical college or high school activities of going to the movies together. Me and Savine came up with the idea, and I think our parents did too, when we were at one of the neuroscience conferences, and they saw how we were all interacting with each other. And then from there, that just snowballed into that. And I'm glad to hear that it's going. I still am friends with Victoria, Savine, Jihad, all sorts of other people from that group. And it is nice to see updates from them and how things are going. And one of the programs is going to kind of intersect in that that our parents, and I would say me and Savine did help with too, was Ready, Set, Go, which was the high school to college program that our families helped co-create with the ATPF. And it is nice that after being in this ATPF for over 18 years, that I can actually remember and see the programs my family's helped co-create, because as Dana said earlier, we are a family. But from my college experience in high school, it's like most autistics, I would say it's been pretty atypical. I knew when I was in high school, I really wanted to go to college. It was actually one of the ideas my mom had. My family supported me through that, which has been amazing. So I was in a non-public school, and I knew I needed to get into A through G programming. So I had to reintegrate back into normal classes, and I did. I was able to go from a non-public to high school relatively quickly. I was able to bounce back, and then after 2.5 to 3 years, I was finished high school, got my diploma, and then I went to Palomar, my community college. And that's also while doing the USD football program where we could adopt a player, and doing teen time and doing Ready, Set, Go. And through both of those, we were able to just keep on pushing forward. Fresh out of high school, I wanted to be a petroleum engineer, and then I realized I'm bad at math, so that's not going to happen. And then I realized I could do geology, and then after a year or two of that, I realized I'm still bad at math. So then I switched it to trying to do both of the different programs to get my associate's degree in transfer, and that didn't work. But with COVID, I knew I had to get my associate's degree, and I did. I ended up getting my AA in arts and humanities. But one of the things that I did, which other people would recommend when you're going through, whether it's your first year university or you're at a 4 years, to join clubs on campus, and that's what I did. I joined the psychology club, hiking club, and I joined my school speech and debate team. And creating those social interactions with other people really does help ground you and keep you in your classes, and gives you other reasons to attend class other than just being bored and going to class, because otherwise you're just going to burn yourself out. I also utilize the disability resources on campuses, and I was able to refer to other people to do that. Actually, if you go back to one of my the slides of asking who that guy was in the bottom corner, that was my speech and debate professor, who I ended up winning one of the it was a small, yeah, that was my speech and debate professor, and I ended up winning a small award in speaking for the team. Yeah. So, and then as time grew on, I didn't have to pretend to look normal. I just grew up my beard because I could. um but yeah, no, I did that. Speech and debate helped me get better at speaking. I would highly recommend that for people who can do that. It will force you to present people, and whether you're good at it, make you better. And if you're bad at it, it will help with that. One of the programs that I did that did help me was I decided I wanted to go on a school trip that would account for my electives, and I did a Catalina trip where for 3 credits or something like that, I could go on a trip. And then when I went to the college I'm at now at Millersville, they did study abroad. And in hindsight, I didn't realize this, but things just have a tendency of cascading. And that was one of the steps I took that helped me progress forward. And so during COVID, I attended a small college called LVC. I did not do well. I transferred with a 3.3 GPA. I left with a 0.0 GPA, but I kept going. And after a year and a half, I re-enrolled back into college, and I was able to start going to classes last year during fall. And now I'm 1 year into my bachelor's, and I should have my bachelor's degree by the end of spring. And over summer, I did a study abroad trip to Iceland, and then I did another one through Europe where I hit a lot of different European countries. And using disability services, using the skills, social skills that I've learned, and doing the different plans and treatments, and just following my school schedule, I've been able to progress forward. And even after having only 12 of my credits applying, I'm still going to be able to graduate within 2 years. So, and then I also stayed in the program of joining other programs. I joined my school's mock trial team last year, and then I was on their conservatory program where we help plant trees in the local area. So Pennsylvania, unlike California, we got a lot of riverbeds, and so we were actually planting trees inside riverbeds, so then they would reflood, and then it would keep the soil down. And then just real briefly, I got some photos for you guys. Once I remember how to share screen. There we go. And then so this is from Iceland. Iceland, and I wanted to go to Europe for a couple of different reasons, including Iceland, is I wanted to know how they have their own disability programs and how they do that. And Iceland has a population about, I think, less than 250,000. So the city I live in is bigger than the entire population of Iceland, but they still have disability programs and they still have to follow the different regulations. And yeah, I thought that was beautiful. And then this is when I was in London, attended an opera here, Paris, still Paris. And then this is meant to be zoomed out. This was in Austria. This is where a monk was giving aid to World War II soldiers. So yeah, this is a very quick run from a student and family member of the ATPF to 18 years later traveling through Europe and going through high school. So yeah.
That's amazing, Derek. I want to definitely open it up to people to ask any questions. But my first question is, I love all those photos. Did you travel on your own, or was it, I know it was part of a study abroad, but did they organize those trips for you, or did you navigate yourself?
So it was both, and thanks for asking that. For Iceland, we are on a very fixed location, but I'm also older. Because I'm 25, I can do what I want. I'm able to drink there and I'm able to drink here. So I already knew how to do that. So some people were 18 and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna have a beer." I'm like, "Okay, I can do that now. It's not gonna be that cool." But we could go hiking. We had people who in Iceland, for example, went hiking and took mountain photos. And then I thought, I'm gonna go sleep. And then when we were in Europe, I had the opposite. I was in London proper, and then I ended up accidentally taking the wrong train because we could go anywhere we wanted. I went to Brixton, which was like downtown London, which was funny because it was like, oh, I've been to these areas before in California on accident. So I immediately turned back around and used my common sense to navigate out of that. So it was a bit of both.
That's awesome. Best of both worlds. All right. Does anybody else have any questions for Derek? Awesome. Rima, go for it.
Hi. Hey, everybody. It's nice to see you. It was really so inspiring to hear that you had failures as you were going through your educational experience, but it didn't stop you. You kept going. So a lot of the kiddos that I've worked with, we don't see them after, maybe junior high or high school, and hearing the insight into what college is like, what that college experience is like, is really super valuable to me. What would you say was the biggest barrier for you in terms of being able to maintain the organization and whatnot that's required for college?
So I'll probably be able to give you some of the best advice because I'm still awful at that, and that is you forget when you're younger how much effort it actually takes to be able to organize yourself as an adult, that once you learn those skills when you're younger, it will carry you through. When you're trying to explain that to younger people, like, hey, you need to know these skills because they're going to cascade. It was not my intention to bring up when I went to Catalina up until I realized I've done these trips before, and how, like, when we do interactions we do as a kid and then you do them as an adult, it's not just creating a pattern, but you're setting yourself up for the future because you know how to deal with it. So, like, being able social interactions, we're not just born with it. Even if you're bad at it, even if you have issues with it, with enough practice, you can get better at it. So that's the same thing was true of organization and other issues like that.
That's great. Thank you.
Awesome question. And awesome answer.
I have a question for Derek.
Go
Hey
ahead.
there. I too really appreciated you sharing your successes as long as in roadblocks. I am curious about the college you selected and why.
Which ones? Because I
Where you
attended
are
three so far.
Where you are.
Okay.
I was familiar with the first you mentioned, but not where you are currently.
So Millersville, this is going to be a bit weirder. First I attended Palomar because they were the ones nearby and they were recommended in my school, so they had a big marketing push, so I went there. OVC, which I did not do well in, had a pharmaceutical program, and then I went there, and then after I failed out of there, I was really hoping for any college nearby that would accept me. And then luckily I lucked into them, and then they allowed me to keep going forward, and I've just ran with it since. So, and I've changed my major a couple of times. I've always been big into politics. So I'm a political science major now, which is helpful because I'm able to talk about actually real issues in ways that's interesting. So
What do you recommend for kids who are not as verbal as you are?
I would say
How to
play into your,
navigate the college path?
yeah, that is, so I'm not as verbal in, well, I am verbal, but I'm not as good at communication in other ways. If you want me to write, I can't write. It's why I'm not an English major. If you want me to do math, I'm not the math major. It's why I'm not in geology or petroleum engineering. I would say play into your strengths and use the services that are available at your college or high school, because those are the programs that are going to supplement what you're bad at, and then you want to get into a career path which you can succeed at. Having me in a writing or a math field is just setting me up for failure. If they're good at, just to be stereotypical, computer programming, perfect. Get them into a computer programming job.
Okay.
I
Thank
have a
you.
question for Derek.
I love
Derek,
that.
I have a 21-year-old autistic grandson. Okay, I'm also a behavior analyst, but I'm too close. It's family. He is very bright. Every time I have a computer problem, I just say, CJ, don't worry, Grandpa, I'll take care of it.
Mhm.
But he is so shy. And can you share with me at what point you have enough confidence within yourself that you say, okay, world, here I am?
So for me, it was, and I forgot to say this earlier when I was asked, what did I do to get better at communication? I was nonverbal when I was younger. I didn't speak to, like, I think it was like 4. But one of the things I distinctly remember is how frustrated I was that I couldn't communicate. So for me, it was the anger of not being able to say, I want apple juice or I want something. And social anxiety, when it comes to speaking, makes people better performers. If you look at actors, if you look at speakers, frankly, channeling that anxiety in a productive way where you can communicate is the best way of doing it. So I would figure out a way of gaming the anxiety so it's actual fuel for the fire and not trying to be putting it out instead, if that makes sense.
Good. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Depending, and I would have said too, one of the programs that isn't a program itself, but an actual sport is speech and debate. Going back to that, because it's a game. You're learning how to game speaking in public, which is a fear for, I think it's the number one fear people have.
Mhm. And Deborah, great question, Jip. Thank you. Lots of love to your grandson. Deborah has a question as well. Go ahead, Deborah.
Hi, thank you. I'm wondering if you could give us more information about what services you use at college. You talked about using the services that they provide, but can you be more specific about how they helped you? And then the college that you weren't successful at, that you left, what was there a specific, was it the wrong classes? Was it the lack of services? Was it something, was it COVID? Was there a reason, a main reason why you felt like that college wasn't a good fit for you?
So to talk about services that help me, my handwriting is, for all intents and purposes, illegible. So somebody else trying to read my notes is just going to look like I'm speaking code. So I get a note taker in class because, again, writing and written communication I'm awful at. I get a note taker for that. Separate testing rooms, just because it is annoying when I'm trying to take a test and like some people will finish before me and some people are doing it afterwards. And I get migraines. So if I'm busy slurping on my energy drink or my caffeine in the bag or eating a snack so I don't get one, that's going to be annoying to other people. So what I'll do is I'll take it at they call it learning services, disability services, whatever phrase they want to say it. I do that. I do note taker, food and drink, even wearing a hat. As Dana said earlier, I have very blue eyes. So it's painful when I'm having a migraine or they have the wrong kind of bulbs or the sun's in my eyes, so I can be in my own room with a hat on. And then when I attended LVC, it was just a perfect storm of everything going wrong. It was they didn't get to me on time of how much I owed, so I could have very easily owed. I found out later it was like $38,000 a semester, and I'm paying for all of my college out of my pocket. My parents don't pay anything. They didn't tell me how much I owed until like a month into the semester. They didn't tell me how much I had on my food plan. The learning services was delayed. I didn't get my class schedule till 3 days before classes started, and I did not understand. I didn't get my textbooks until a month after classes started, and I didn't understand the incompletes that I took would be completely removed after 4 weeks. I thought I had more time. So then I transferred with a 3-point GPA and I left with a 0.0. And because I let the principal know what was going on, because it was his first semester there, the admins didn't like that and then they suspended me. So that's why there was an even longer delay on me going back to college.
Wow.
Wow, thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
That's
I
pretty-
left a lot of that out just to speed up the conversation.
Mhm. Well, we've got time. It's only 1:30. I really like the way that you've reflected on this, Derek, everything that you've gone through and directly, it's very practical of like, what you learned, which I think is really impressive. And you're giving great advice so far to everyone here.
I don't want to be a question hog.
Go for it.
Yeah, we got
Okay.
time.
So I have a 15-year-old son who's a sophomore, so this is very much on my mind right now. Did you first, so I think now you're away from home going to college, is that right? You don't,
No, I live with them again, but at the moment, if I needed to, I could leave. So it's not, I still use them as a resource, but not like for checking my essays and stuff like that.
so you live with your parents?
I do, yeah.
Okay, that's one of my, I think that my son will probably go to a community college in San Diego, but I'm just curious about that next step, which is a ways away, which is moving out to go to college. But I think even traveling the first time you traveled away independently, how old were you when you did that, and how did the first trip go?
So I've been away from my parents before. I don't have separation anxiety when it comes to that. For me, it was easy. When I was at LVC, it was in the dorms. That was fine. It's really going to be, and this is going to be more general advice, it depends on the kid. So if they can be alone and they're fine with that, they're just going to be able to separate just fine, and then they'll be able to be an independent adult. But if they do want to be with family, then they're going to be homesick. And that's also part of the freshman experience of being like, I'm an adult for the first time, I'm away from my family, I have the stresses of taking college. That's normal. So it's a little bit of a mix up between normal anxiety and then if there's anything extra that comes with that. Does that answer it?
Yeah, that's very helpful.
Okay.
So anybody else have any questions?
Derek, I have a question for you. What have been maybe the top 3 things that you learned from being involved with the Autism Tree Teen Time program, and then being involved with the college readiness, to then being involved with these different clubs that you're involved with? What are like 3 things that really stick out for you that you learned from your peers from being so active in different groups?
So for teen time specifically, that is that's going to be, I'm going to answer that with an example. On my second study abroad, when I went to Europe, whether or not the people were diagnosed, and I'm not saying this to be pejorative, the vast majority of them were autistic. And so it was funny seeing people who were diagnosed and undiagnosed and being able to be like, oh, I know how to deal with you. I've gone through this program before. And so I was able to just navigate like I've done in the past and was able to just keep on moving. And for the other one, it's the basic social interactions of dealing with people, of being like, oh, this person doesn't like burgers, so then we should go to a place that sells pizza instead. And it's just different communications towards that, different observations you can make. And it's just the overall just interacting with people. It's, even if it's slight, it helps. And for Ready, Set, Go, it would have been the biggest one, I would say, and professors always say that, and they're not called teachers anymore apparently, is you have to be approved by learning services for any accommodations. So you can't just say, oh, I have ADHD, I can turn on work light. They're going to say no. Or I have autism, I can turn on my work light. They're not going to accept that. But if you have some sort of accommodation saying, hey, something happened, this is why, and here's the proof, they'll support you in helping you. I've yet to have a teacher or professor where they don't want to help you when you have the accommodations for that. For the other Ready, Set, Goes we've done, it was going back to my professor. He was willing to talk about how to do programs with the ATPF, and he was willing to do how to ask for accommodations. My college, for example, will just straight up email the professors. But I like to do is I like to let them know, hey, I have accommodations, and here's the application from learning services. Putting a face to it helps, so then they know, or saying, hey, I need a note taker. Who can I ask for that? Do you have somebody in mind, or do you want me to ask somebody who I noticed has good handwriting? So those are the things I've noticed.
Really valuable. I want to give out a shout out to Ann Leslie, who just joined. Hi, Ann. Thanks for joining. One of our OG families. You want to say hi to Derek? I don't know if you can unmute yourself. Maybe she stepped away from the computer.
Okay.
Sorry, are you talking to me? It's Anne.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get Gage to come listen, because he's now going to Miramar, and he's just starting to kind of figure out that he has accommodations, and that he can ask for them, and he's kind of shy about that kind of stuff. He's kind of shy in general, but it would be neat for him to talk to you, but he's like, I'm eating lunch. So I'm not sure. He might come in a minute, but I might have to turn off the video because he might feel kind of shy. But this is awesome, Derek. Hi. Where are you at right now?
I'm in PA right now still, but
Okay.
thank you for, I've actually bugged her husband about helping me pick out which camera to buy, and sometime later I'll still send you guys the photos. I just have to get done taking the classes that I'm in and have the time for it.
Awesome. Awesome.
So, but I can share some of the photos again real quick that I took. Um,
Really love it. And can you send these to us? We can include them in our recap email.
yeah.
Okay.
Just have to remember how to use technology. Oh, and that was one of the other ones that I did is Palomar briefly. I don't know if they still had it. They had a learning services course you could take for that would help new students with their courses. It was called Adaptive Computer Course. And it would basically teach you how to use Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, and just the basic stuff, which you would expect to learn, but also sometimes they don't teach it in K through 12, or if you're in special education, they don't teach you it there. So
Right. Yeah.
it's unfortunate, but yeah. But yeah, this is Iceland,
Wow.
and then this is London, this is Paris, Paris still, and then this is Austria.
What was your favorite place to visit out of those places, Derek?
Iceland, because it's small enough and it's remote. I gotta take a lot of landscape photography. London was nice. I did not enjoy Paris. I enjoyed the food, I enjoyed the architecture, and then everything else was overcrowded. So, yeah, you can definitely feel the population crisis there. And then, what was it? Hungary was fine. Budapest was fine. Actually have the locations here. I went to Paris. I went to Budapest, Prague. Prague was nice. I almost ate a giant steak. Austria was nice. Italy was nice. Verona was nice. I ended up catching the adenovirus when I was in Europe, and it's basically like a cold and flu virus mixed in with pink eye. So I was looking like a rock star the entire time with sunglasses, not touching anybody. So it was great.
Oh,
then-
wow. And was this trip through school, or did you just take this trip on your own?
You could have done it without it counting for college credit. I chose to count it for college credit to fill in the electives. That's what I said earlier, that I forgot that I previously did that at Palomar, where they had a interactive learning where we went to Catalina Island. And
Oh,
yeah, and then I did that again, and I'm like, well, I need to make up 12 credits because I transferred. They're not going to accept 12 of them, so I'll just do study abroad instead to make up for it.
nice.
So yeah, it's using the services that the college provides for your education, which is the entire point.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Super cool.
You mentioned that you're a political science major now. How many majors did you go through?
So I went through a lot because it took me a while to realize I was still bad at math. And then I was able to just squeak by a degree. So I think I'm on 4 now. Might be 5 if I don't pass one class. I'm joking when I say that, but I chose political science because there are a lot of political issues within the United States and the world, and they're not getting better because we're just selectively ignoring them. So it's a way of focusing on them and getting them fixed.
What do you want to do as like your job, a career?
So I'm still trying to go into the military. The military for a while had a blanket ban on people with autism, but because of the recruiting crisis, they've had to relower their standards. And I'm no longer trying to go into the Marine Corps directly as enlisted. So it's easier to go in now because of their recruiting crisis, but also because the military is getting wised up that autism is no longer Canner's autism. It's the DSM-5 ASD diagnosis, which is completely separate.
Oh.
So, and then for job wise, I ended up planning on going in the military for at least 6 years as an officer. Once I get my bachelor's degree, and then I plan on creating my own nonprofit, which will be like Dana's One Place, but for multiple disabilities instead of just one. So I need their prototype to work, so then my prototype can work.
Wow.
Awesome.
Wow. Hi, Gage. Nice to see you.
I'm not gonna talk much.
Okay, you don't have to. It's just nice to see you.
But if you have questions, then, you know, just unmute.
Okay.
We're all friends here. It's just a time.
Yeah, I
to
really
connect.
love it to be illuminated what a family Autism Tree is. You know, my son Garrett and Gage and Derek all grew up together, and now they're all in college. And I love that, Derek, that you said you called Anne's husband Scott to get advice on a camera. Like this kind of stuff goes on all the time, and I don't think people realize it, but it really is. If you don't know, Autism Tree really is one big family. Derek, I feel like I had a couple other questions. What advice do you have from the experiences that you've gone through that would protect some of our kids? Because I know I want to compliment you for being so positive, and that really touches me because I know that I work really hard on that for myself and for the foundation. But I think it also is important, Derek, to realize that you've had some things happen that were very significant and that I wouldn't even know how to describe, but they're your um they're your stories. And from those, are there things that you could share as things that you will look out for to protect kids that are maybe vulnerable because of having autism?
So when it comes to that, there are pros of failing forward as much as I have, and that would be you do need to set up yourself with learning services. You do need to get a record of that. That is basically mandatory for going forward in college. And the reason why is simply, as I said before, bringing up the fact that you have some sort of disability of any kind without any proof through the college, that will save you more often than not. Even if you have a diagnosis, if you don't have it through the school and they can confirm it, even if you have to make another doctor's appointment or several, and I've had that happen, it's better to have the documentation. Because if they try to give you pushback saying, no, we're not going to do this, we're not going to give you this accommodation, we're not going to do this because of your disability, even if you had it in your IEP or 504 plan, by you doing that, you are now doing the due diligence where if they don't follow through on it, you have the paperwork to say, I've done everything I need to. Why haven't you? And when it comes to college campuses, for the most part, I would say they're pretty safe. I can't think of any time where I've had like people physically threaten me, so that's easy. One time I was getting into an argument with somebody and they followed me into the bathroom, but then I immediately went to the professor and they're like, yeah, I'll report it and tell him not to do that. And then it just never came up again. But even then, that was exceedingly rare, where after 6 years, that is the only thing that can come to mind. And I'm not a negative person. I'm also not a happy person. I try to live in the reality of the world. And I would say college is what you put into it. If you only go to the classes, you're only going to get education. But just like the Autism Tree, you want to come here to network with other people. Some of the best friends I have now are not from my high school or middle school, but from where I go to college. So I went to one of my friends' weddings 2 years ago. I went to one of my friends I'm still in contact with, where we're sending each other memes every day. Just stuff like that. My school speech and debate team, that's where I met them. We wouldn't have interacted otherwise. And by you putting yourself into social groups, you're also creating enough people that can vouch for you as a person if you did need, let's just say, a character witness or something like that. And the only other thing I can think of how to protect yourself would be to this is going to be a bit more of a weird statement, but know why you're going to college. At the end of the day, you're going to college for a higher education, and just stick to that. Doing that is probably going to be your best way of staying safe, because if you're going there to socialize purely, you're going to fail. If you're going to go in there purely to date somebody, you're going to fail. But if you go there for education and then something happens along the way, that's a lot better than trying to seek out for ulterior motives. So
Derek, what made you decide to go the military route?
My family is, I was born on an Air Force base. My dad is a colonel in the Air Force. My mom she did 4 years in the Air Force. My dad was enlisted at the time. My mom met my stepdad after they got divorced. I think it would have been 4 years later. My aunt was working and her boss was my stepdad. And that's how they met. And then aunt was in the Marine Corps. Stepdad retired after 20 years in the Marine Corps. Just been a military about my entire life. Didn't really have an option of not being.
You're going to carry on the legacy.
Yeah, that's been my main argument this entire time. I've been trying to do it, and even though the military, there was a joke where I wanted to be like a fighter pilot and a bomber as a kid, a bomber,
Uh-huh.
a fighter, and they just were like, "Come on, man, just let me in. I've been trying for the past 19 years."
How does your mom and dad feel about you wanting to be in the carry the legacy, Derek?
They were fine with it. The issue is it was always just the military creating artificial blockades. And once they've been able to reestablish their standards and are no longer as arbitrarily exclusive, because when I was trying to go in 2016, this was also when the United States was leaving Afghanistan and they were massively shrinking. They had a firing policy on people with tattoos.
Got it.
Learning so much about the military on this. I love it. Does anybody have any last minute questions for Derek? Still have a few minutes, or you can type it in the chat as well and I can read it out for you. That's also an option if you're shy.
Derek, I don't have a question. I just have a comment. I've really enjoyed listening to you so far, and I really relate to your experience in college because I started at community college right after high school, 2011, and it took me 10 years to graduate with my bachelor's degree. And it wasn't until I got to community college and I started at the lowest math level, and I had to repeat every math class until I could no longer take it, and then finally graduated, but I was able to get services at the Disability Service Center requested by a professor that helped me and understood, like, I was doing it the best I could, but I just was not grasping it, or I would write my numbers backwards. And then when I got to the services, I was diagnosed dyslexic with numbers, and that's why, and it gave me a solution of like why I've struggled for so many years, but I never gave up because I knew what my purpose was and that I wanted a higher education. But I kept battling just blockages after like not grasping it, but I still continued, and I really relate to your story. And I think it's really beautiful how successful you are becoming in your educational experience, and your advice has been so relatable. And I just really appreciate reflecting on my journey too, and how important it is to have that documentation to support you, because sometimes you have to fight for yourself, especially in community college. There's so many students, but if you have the paperwork, you can defend yourself and advocate for your education. So I think it's awesome.
Yeah, and that's you're unfortunately there is a head-butting process of just ramming your head in a wall when it comes to college campuses or just taking the college course. And we both were lucky enough that we were able to start out at a community college, and I can only imagine how much more it would have costed and how much more effort it would have been and stress of trying to do that out of 4 year. And that's something I would say is I would start at a community college because it is going to be significantly cheaper and a softer landing. Because if you don't do well in community college, nobody cares. You do it at a 4 year where they're charging $25,000 a year, yeah, everyone's going to hate you. So
Absolutely, I agree with that. I changed my major many times also, and it led me to gerontology, a major I had never even heard of. But it led me to a multidisciplinary degree that I can choose how I want to use it. And I think it's amazing. I wouldn't have had that if I had gone straight to university. So I am a huge advocate for community college. It gives you that space to try different things and meet different people and open yourself up to where that can lead you.
Thank you, Erica, for sharing your journey as well.
Yeah.
I love it. Derek, in the comments, Karen said, Derek, so good to see you thriving. You have always been a favorite of mine. You are a warrior.
Aww.
It is really refreshing to see somebody who knows how to advocate for themselves so strongly after going all that you've been through. So,
Derek, what would you want to say to new parents just starting out their autism journey? What do you think would be your words of wisdom?
That would be, and I'm just gonna couch this with assuming that they're going through the same things I did when I was younger, being an ABA, doing all those programs, is you have to remember that they are still kids. And that would be to let them still make the same mistakes as a kid and know that you're trying to build them up for the adult that they'll be in the future. Time does not hold for anybody, and especially I think is true of kids. So they'll get to the point that they need to be when they get there. And I was talking with my dad, and he reminded me I didn't crawl when I was a kid. I just rolled. And then I inevitably said, this sucks. And I just started running. So I skipped the entire crawling phase. And I'm sure the same thing is true of other kids where they'll just stop. They might not get something for a while. They could just not be good at it. But inevitably, they will probably be different at other things. And hopefully those things can carry them on to the future. You just have to wait and care and support them through it.
What about Derek for our next generation, which we have a pretty good large size group of teenagers and young adults now at Autism Tree. I think you know that, right? That it's pretty large group. Rebecca, how many teenagers can you tell Derek that we have? Teenagers and young adults, do you think?
It's over 300 now.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, in that space, Derek, what kind of advice or lessons have you learned in dating, in the dating world?
I don't. Going back to the previous advice I was giving about why I go to college and stuff like that, I would actually advise people not to do that while they're going to school. The reason why is, and I've had this happen a bit where I'm just trying to talk with people, but because people instinctively have their guard up, they think that you're trying to hit on them, even though it could be over something basic. So I would not even go down that route. And even with my own personal advice, I keep things separate and compartmentalized on purpose. So I would try to hope that you can date somebody out in the real world versus doing it when you're at school, because there's extra levels of bureaucracy within college that just makes dating, if it happens naturally, great. But I wouldn't seek it out on college campuses. It's not going to be a good thing. I would, when it comes to dating, I would just couch that to the side. If it happens, it happens. And you need to do basically find somebody who's right for you, and that will take time.
I think that's really good advice. And I hadn't heard it before. Yeah.
All right. Any other questions for anyone? Or anybody who just wants to say hi? Okay, well, I'd love to take a group picture with everyone before we go. And thank you all so much for making the time out of your Wednesday to join us. And thank you, Derek, for this awesome, informative, and very
great job, Derek.
Great lunch and learn. So if you'd like to share your screen or your camera, I'd love to see you. And okay, just everybody smile at their cameras. I'll do a screenshot. Ready? 3, 2, 1, cheese. I think it worked. Okay, awesome. I got it. Yes, there we go.
Hi, Cindy. I was looking for you. I have to get really close.
Derek, thanks so much.
Derek.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you.
Bye, Derek.